Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Healing Conversations. My name is Einav Avni from Untangled Healing, and this podcast is really about bringing people with a story, with a passion, with a message to inspire and bring hope or laughter to the world. And with me today, Eden Gruger. Eden, so lovely to meet you. How are you
Thank,
today?
thank you for having me. I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. So,
Good.
so let's get started and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I am the author of women's fiction, comic fiction. And actually, there's not that many women still writing comedy. So if you've got some funny bones, please write because we need more funny women. Um, when I'm not writing my own books, I work to mentor and inspire other people to get their books out into the world and marketed it in front of as many readers as possible. So that's what I spend my time doing, that and gardening.
Amazing. And so, what got you started into? How did you come to write your first book? To think that comedy in writing is your thing, and tell us a little bit about that journey.
So I always, from when I learned to read when I was 4, and from the moment I realised, hey, I think someone must be writing the story that I'm reading, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. So I've got school exercise books with my little spidery writing saying, I'm going to be an author. And that's all I ever wanted to do. Everybody said to me, it's not a job. That's not a job. You need a proper job, which I mean, you kind of do. But anyway, and so it went on the back burner, and I had the usual career that people do, and I spent 20 years in sales and marketing, and business development, which was fun in lots of ways. I'd always had some health issues, and then I think it was 15 years ago now. Unfortunately, my health really took a turn for worse, and I couldn't work then. I couldn't work. So, but as I was recovering, I started to want to use my brain a bit more. I did an open university degree, which really boosted my confidence. And then in 2017, I started a blog. Everyone had blogs then. And I thought people were just going to say, what a load of drivel this is, how ridiculous. But they didn't. People were saying, oh, you're really funny. And obviously, I suspected I was funny, but that's just between us. But people were responding really well, and people were saying, you are saying what we're thinking. You are speaking in the way that we talk to our closest girlfriends, but we didn't realise kind of maybe that everybody else was doing the same. And then people started to ask for a book. So in 2018, I just, as I am wont to do, I have these ideas, and I just said, you know what, this is the year I'm putting a book out. So I decided that in the January, and I had so much material that it was just a case of building a collection and then getting it out there, which is where the sales and marketing experience came in. Thank you, universe. And I put my first book out in September 2018, and now I'm on book 6. So
Amazing.
yeah, and it's just been the best thing ever. It's and being able to fulfill a lifelong dream. There's no feeling that can touch that. I promise you. And even they generally are well received. Not everybody's going to like every book. That's not how books are designed to be. But yeah, so far good feedback. So I'm happy.
That's amazing. I mean, I guess it has been my dream as well to write a book. I have co-authored a book and published some ebooks as well, which I am very proud of. Actually, it's for me, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. The ebooks, it was hard. So when it was over and out there, I was like, I was very proud. But how do you do this? What is the process that you're doing when you have an idea for a book and all the way to when it's actually out?
Well, with me, so I've got 2 non-fiction books, which are guides to writing and publishing. And when I'm writing non-fiction, I'm very much thinking if somebody's approached me and asked me a question, so How to Write Without Block, which is one of the books, I get asked all the time. How can I write? How can I get out of writer's block? How can I make sure I stay out? What happens if I get it? And so I wrote that book as a conversation to the person that had asked me that question. And then I formulated some different exercises and advice and things that had helped me. So my nonfiction is always a conversation around, this is what you want to know, and you don't want some highfalutin, this. You want straightforward, down to earth, common sense advice. How can I do this thing? So that's where my nonfiction is. My fiction, I don't know if you know this expression about earwigging. That's my mum and my granny's old expression. It means listening in, and I'm a big listener in. So if I go to a cafe or I'm on a train and I hear a little snippet of something and I think, oh, that's interesting, and it can just be one of my favourites, and I've not used it yet, but it's in a notebook, and it said, and this lady said, she was obviously talking about a date she'd been on, and her friend said, what was he like? And she said, when Shrek turns into a prince, how gorgeous is that? So out comes the little notebook, and any little snippet I hear, I jot down. And then at some point, I'll go back through my snippets and an idea will blossom, and I will start to think around who said it, who were they saying it to, why were they saying it? And it builds from there. And then once I've got a first draft, then I ignore it for a bit, because when you're too close, you can't see what's wrong. Come back, do a bit of polishing, go away again, come back and do a bit more polishing. And I never worry about spelling and grammar until the very end, because you might spend ages polishing the grammar and then you're going to delete a whole paragraph. So that's a waste of time. So that's the way I do it. So I do my polishing, and then at the last minute, check the grammar, check the spelling, make sure I haven't doubled up on words and things like that, which I have a habit of doing. And then I have a wonderful editor who is super patient, and she has a look over, and then she'll send me back her suggestions or changes or things she's noticed, and then I can adjust or not. And you can disagree with your editor. That's okay. A good editor won't mind that at all. And then I have a proofreader, and then when that's all done, then it goes to the designer. I'm not technological at all. I'm all right when it's doing exactly what I expect, but if it freestyles, that's me. I'm that person that I've threatened my laptop with a hammer many times. So I have someone that designs the book for me and formats it so that it looks right. And then I release on the platforms. And actually, it's really interesting to me when you say, like, when you put your books out as the hardest thing that you've done, because it is not just from all the technology that you have to learn and the rules and regulations and meeting the professional standards and all of that stuff. You're also putting a piece of your heart and your brain into the world. What are people going to do with it? That's kind of terrifying. It is. And that's why I try to, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, it's really easy and it's great and you'll make loads of money, because that wouldn't be true and it wouldn't be fair. And when I help and support writers, I want them to know they can trust they're really getting the good advice. And if I've made a mistake, I'll tell you, I've made this mistake. So don't do it like that, because it worked really badly. Yeah. And then it's out in the world, and that's when the work begins. Because you've got to then get it in front of the right readers and everything else that goes on from that.
Yes, and that's the marketing and sales that you mentioned. I know, because for me, I think the biggest thing that I had when I was writing my ebooks, because I was commissioned to write them by a publisher, and they said, by March you need to give us a first chapter, and I was, oh my God, I have to write the first chapter, and I was like, I just stood there looking at my blank screen, couldn't figure out what to write, and it was terrifying, and it took me some time to recognize that they'd said a first chapter, not chapter number one, and all of a sudden all this relief came over. I was like, okay, so I can write chapter two. So that was really, really tough. But afterwards, when I was thinking, hey, I want to publish my own book, the self-publishing world seems really quite scary to try and get into. Is it?
Well, it depends, you see. So traditional publishing is really all about gatekeepers. So it was fantastic that you were approached. That tells me that you are a very special person, because that doesn't generally happen. So normally with traditional publishing, you write the book, get it to the best standard you can. Then you've got to try and get an agent, because the agent generally deals with the publisher on your behalf. So you do lots of charming, if you're lucky, of agents, and then if you're really lucky, two might want it, but luckily if you find one, you're doing a good thing. And then they would deal with the publishing houses on your behalf and work out the deals and all that stuff, so you can just sit back a bit and write the next book. They always want the next one. With self-publishing or indie publishing, independent publishing, you are the publisher. So you need to have, we think of it in like hats. So you've got your writing hat, your maker hat, and then you've also got your business hat, your manager hat, if you will. There's an amazing woman called Orna Ross that talks about the hats, and it's not my idea, it's Orna's idea. And you have to think like a business. So you've got to think about how you're going to get the product out, who you want it to go to, where you want it to be, how it's going to look. All the bits that the traditional publisher would do, you're doing, because you are an independent publishing house. Whether you call yourself Eden Gruger or I for the first few years, I didn't have like a publishing house name, which now I have, and I can tell you it's called Eccentric Girl Press, which I think is just me to a T. So, but you don't have to have that. You can just publish it under your name. And then, the onus is on you to learn the business. But that's the key to it. It is a business. Whatever business you chose to start, there'd be a learning curve, there'd be investment. And publishing is the same. It's not, the days when you could sit at home and just banging away on your typewriter as it was then, and then send it off to the traditional publisher, and they go, hey, have £25,000. That's amazing. Write another book, please. Doesn't really exist now. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view. So it's hard. It's hard. But that's where if you want to be an author, there's a passion, there's a fire, there's a spark that keeps you going.
Yeah. I heard someone say that when you write a book, you have to be really, kind of in love with the idea, because the original book that you're writing is not the final version that you actually send out. And the idea for me, when I finished writing, I'm thinking, I just don't want to see it anymore. I mean, I'm like completely done. So the idea to actually bring it back and not digest, I don't know, go through everything.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. How are you dealing with that?
That's absolutely. That is the writerly way. You are a writer, Einav, because that's it. By the time you finish the project, you're like, this is drivel. I don't like it. No one's going to like it. It's awful, but just put it out so it can be done. And that's normal. It's that finishing energy. By the time you get there, it's exhausting, especially if you've got life going on around you, and if you've got a partner and children and family and pets and stuff and a job. Most people have also got a job to do as well. Yeah. And it's really important that the expectation is reduced. So I think it's a bit like getting married, you see. So the wedding, the creating, that's really exciting. It's like, whoa, look at me doing this thing. And then you find out you're married, which is like less exciting on a day-to-day basis. So you create this thing, and then it's like, oh, now what do I do with it? It's out there. Okay. Yeah. It is hard, but it is so much fun. It is so much fun. And I wouldn't want to do anything else. I really wouldn't. If somebody said to me, you here you are, I'm going to give you £1 billion, what are you going to do? I say, oh, good, now I can write more books in more formats. That would be there's nothing else I would want to do. And I think that's the key. If it's your dream, your passion, your love, you'll keep plodding on. And the
Yeah.
hard bits, they'll be bad at the time, but actually the good bits are much better.
Yeah. So tell me, we called the title of the conversation was the power of can do. Tell me a
Yes.
little bit about that. Where is that coming from?
Yeah, so it came from my health issues. So I really was very unwell, and I had to leave work, and I couldn't live on my own anymore, and I couldn't get out. So life became very small and very difficult. Um, and I was having to deal with a lot of healthcare professionals. And the thing that I noticed was that it was all about what I couldn't do. And there were loads of things I couldn't do. And I started to think of myself as an unable person. And I was registered as disabled. Um, and that's fine because it needed to be practically. But after a bit, I really started to get a bit fed up with no one was saying, nobody expected me to be good at anything anymore. And there were things that I was good at. Okay, I couldn't walk to the shops, but I could be on a podcast, or there were still things that I could do. And especially when I was writing, when I was meeting people that lockdown in many ways was easy for me because I was already housebound. So all like the boost of Zoom and all of that, where you could connect with all these people all around the world all of a sudden, was pretty amazing. But nobody saw, because everybody was doing it, nobody saw that I was doing it differently and I was differently abled. And
Mm.
they started to think I was pretty good and say, oh, that's amazing, you've done this, or oh, you've written some books, oh, you're doing this and that, oh, that's fantastic. And I started to think, yeah, why am I not focusing more on that stuff? So I then became kind of evangelical to the point of probably being annoying, that let's focus on what we can do. Every single human being has got stuff they can't do and stuff they're great at. That's how it is. And so, okay, so I can't, literally, as I say, I can't walk to the shop without help, but I can write a book. I can make lots of people laugh. I can help someone else to write their book. This is not an everyday thing. It's not an everyday thing what I can't do, but also what I am doing isn't an everyday thing. And and so I really became. I was just saying this all over the place, that you could. It's not about not acknowledging what you can't do. We have to acknowledge it because that's real life, but also focus as well on all the things you're absolutely fantastic at, because there will be things. And even if you're having a terrible day, there will be something you are great at. There really will be.
Yeah.
And it's not that kind of toxic positivity of, oh, nothing can hold you back. And yes, things will hold you back. They will. That's, if somebody said to me, oh, I've got this amazing speaking gig for you. Can you just nip to Australia and speak to 1,000 people? No, sorry, I can't actually get on a plane. So that would be an issue. So there are physical things, mental things, emotional things that hold us all back,
Yeah.
but also we're fabulous. And that's the bit. That's the bit that I want to share with people. And that's how I want people to feel. I want them to realize that there's stuff they're really, really good at.
I love that. I really love that. When I speak to my clients, and I kind of have a radar for the negative words that they say about themselves, and that is like, stop. Don't say
Yeah,
that. Don't call yourself all of these names. Don't think about yourself so harshly, because you're wonderful. There's so many incredible things that you are doing, you have done, that you have managed. Why not celebrate that more? So I'm so with you
exactly.
with that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Every time if someone's in my presence and they say something negative about themselves, I'm like, no, we're not having that. Tell me something good. Tell me something good about you now, immediately, or I'm leaving. I'm not quite that bossy. I mean, I am, but
No, but I know what you mean. It's also, and as you say, with the idea of gratitude, because I have this habit that every night, as I just about to nod off, I do. I say, what am I grateful for? What was good about today? And I mentally list these things, and I am feeling really grateful, even if I had a really shitty day. I
yeah,
still had, exactly like you say, I had a conversation, or I had an idea, or I had a breakthrough, that little things that make a big difference. So I am completely with you on this idea that let's just look at things in perspective. We don't have to compare ourselves to others. We don't have to just think about everything that didn't happen or that we disappointed us. There's so much more.
exactly. And I try to the healthcare professionals that I meet. I try to drip feed this to them, and it freaks them out a little bit because I guess they're used to people feeling really low and really badly about themselves, and that's really disappointing, you know. And and I remember somebody once saying to me, asking me like, "Oh, how have you been?" And I said, "You know what? I am really having my best life at the moment." And she looked horrified, as if I'd said, "Oh, I'm really glad that I can't do all this stuff." And she honestly, she obviously had forgot to put a professional filter on. It was like, and I was like, no, but look, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and at the time I just haven't had another book come out and whatever. And she was like, oh, okay. I try not to be too confrontational with it, but I think it's really important that particularly people that are giving out the labels, that they realise there's a label and other stuff. It's
But,
not like I am a label and that's now what I am.
but what you're saying, and especially about health professionals and stuff, I think this kind of goes to a little bit of what I do, which is the healing beats, and helping people to heal from chronic pain and illness and stuff like that. And it's really about it's the mindset, it's the belief system. So when you have a health professional say to you, this is the diagnosis, and this is what you can do and what you can't do, and mostly it's of course about what you can't do, and you believe that, and everything is goes around that. Okay, well, they told me I can't do it, so of course I can't.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I
But
had
what if you tried? What
no,
if you said to them, actually,
exactly. Exactly. I had
with
a car accident. It wasn't a big car accident, but I had whiplash and my neck got stuck in a funny angle. And I saw a specialist, a very, very top specialist, and after having a good old examine, and he said, well, you're never going to get that movement in your neck back. So, and I think I was like 35 at the time. And one of the things that I did was I was a hula hooper in a private circus. And so I couldn't hoop anymore because I couldn't exercise. So all my exercising went out the window. And I then had that mindset of I can't do that. I have to be careful. I need to protect this. I can't move. My body can't. And then I met a yoga teacher, and I said to her, "Oh, I would have loved to take a class, but obviously I can't." And she was like, well, maybe you couldn't do all of it. Maybe you could just do a tiny bit. And I liked her so much. I went to the class. Now vast majority I can do, but to start with, I was afraid of my own body because
yeah,
a specialist had said to me, "You can't do that."
yeah. No, it's to me, it's a real problem. When people that we believe so much tell us something, we really we take it like the gospel. We're like, okay,
Exactly. Yeah.
but there's it's really is about the belief system, and if you believe that it's not in this way, that it's a different way, that you can do things or try things, or yeah, yeah,
It's really infuriating, Einav. It really is.
yeah. But I really like, I really like what you are, what you're saying, and obviously you are a proof that this is working. That when you change your, the way that you look at things, then you can do things that you were told or you believed that you couldn't.
Exactly. And the thing, for me personally, becoming really ill was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I'm only speaking for myself. In no way am I talking for anybody else.
Yeah.
But I am a happier person now than I was before. Because before I was doing all the things you're supposed to do, and I had the mortgage and the this and the that and blah, blah, blah. And I was so unhappy most of the time. I was. And now I'm really not. I'm just not. So for me, it was a massive and fantastic rebuild, you know. But and again, my way is not for everybody. Please, I'm not judging anybody's way of
Yeah.
being. You are your own self and you make the decisions for you. But this is what worked for me.
I definitely understand that. I mean, I was seeing this interview once on a program. This guy, out of nowhere, he got shot, and he became paralyzed. And for a long time, of course, he was very angry because it was like, okay, you shot me, but why? Who are you even? It was a complete accident, and so he was going around with this. With the anger and the frustration and all of that for a very long time. And then one day he decided that he's going to turn it all around. And then he decided to do, and he was in a wheelchair. So he started doing bodybuilding while in the wheelchair. So you have pictures of him, on this kind of rope, and I think with the wheelchair, is it possible that maybe I'm making it up, but he's up there doing all of these things. More so, he's now dedicated his life to help people, in the streets, that with how to get them away from crime and stuff. And in the program, they actually managed to find the person who shot him, and they said, this is not, we're not the police, we're not doing anything, we're just having a conversation. And it wasn't an easy conversation, but at the end of it, the guy in the wheelchair said, actually, thank you, because I was very angry with you, of course, for a very long time. But now I see that if you didn't shot me, I would have probably be dead by now, because I was in the street and I
Wow.
was in the crime and all of that. So he was really able to see the other perspective of
Yeah.
everything. And I mean, that's incredible. And this is
That's
what you were saying as
fantastic.
well. It's,
Yeah.
we are our own, the lords of our own destiny, and sometimes maybe we get them there in a way that we didn't wish for ourselves, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
there is a way.
Yeah. Most definitely. Most
Um,
definitely.
Eden, before we have to go, sadly it's come to that time already. Tell us a little bit about. I know you have a mentoring program that you offering. Tell us a little bit how people
Yeah.
can find you, what they can do with you.
Yeah, so it's through my website and it's a monthly masterclass membership. So I have created 14 audio classes and they cover every aspect. So every question you've got, from how to write without block, how to create an author brand, how authors use social media, every question that you have, I have created an answer. Most of them come with a workbook as well. So if you are a member, it's £37 a month currently. And then I don't know what that is in dollars. And then you have access to all of the classes. I don't recommend doing them all in a month because you'll probably just then have to have a month in bed to recover. But just do them slowly, one at a time, absorb the information, and you can actually do the class and then do the thing and build your author business as you go, which I think is pretty cool. It also obviously it's got email support. So if there's anything that isn't clear, or you need some extra info and extra help, then I also have a mentoring membership. I only take 10 people a year on that one. So I like to keep it so that they can get my undivided attention, my little author chicks, and I can mother hen them until they're ready to fly. So yeah, that's how I help my writers and budding writers and authors that are struggling. It's not just for newbies, it's for people that have got to a point and they're stuck. Let me
Yeah.
unstick you.
Amazing. Well, Eden, thank you so much for being a wonderful guest on the
Thank
podcast.
you.
I will, of course, add all of your social links and everything to the description of the chat. And anyone wanting to get in touch, please do. And if you are watching or listening, please leave a comment. Let us know how you feel, any questions, stuff like that. We would love to hear from you. Thank you, everyone, so much. Thank you, Eden. Thank you. It was a wonderful to have you here. Thank
Thank
you.
you for having me.
Thanks.